Hello, Sammie. Is that you? Can you see me in there? I'm gonna make this video for you um, over the exercise that I sent your mom called the Table of Time. So hopefully she's printed it for you or you got it on a screen. And the reason we're going to do this is all the stuff in that sheet, it's to my left, that's all the stuff that's in that Copeland piece, mostly. There's a lot of stuff in that piece, which you may or may not be familiar with, so I need to make sure you've seen all this stuff first before we try to get you to play it in a piece. It's just a lot easier that way. I know you've been playing bass drums, so you might already know some of this stuff, but I wanted to go over it so you understand everything you're going to see in the other song. The only thing I don't like about this particular sheet is it doesn't have quarter notes, so I'm going to add them at the beginning. But if there's anything you don't understand on this sheet, by the time we're done, you should at least understand what you're looking at and how fast they want you to play. So you notice in the top left corner, there's a little quarter note that says equals 60. So if you don't know what that is, it means that the tempo is 60 quarter notes per minute. And all that means is you're going to set a metronome to 1 beat per second. You can use a clock for this if you don't have a metronome. And all the subdivided notes there fit into that 1 beat per second speed. So something about all of this that helps make it make more sense is the way we write notes. It's math, yes, it's division, but not really. 1, 2, 3 of the things you see on the sheet only make sense because we say they do. They don't make sense mathematically. Some of the notes, 8th notes, 16th notes, 16th note triplets, but really, or 32nd notes, excuse me, they make sense because it's just you're going twice as fast and you're chopping up the beat into smaller amounts of notes. So the way we write them makes sense with the little one line going across the top for 8th notes and 2 lines going across the top for 16th notes and 3 lines going across the top for 32nd notes. So every time you put a beam across, it doubles in speed, right? On the triplets, it doesn't make any sense because they didn't have a way to write it once we committed to doing this system of beams. Writing, 3 notes or 5 notes or 7 notes or 6 notes, they had to figure out some other way to do it. So on line number 2, you notice it looks like 8th notes, but they're in groups of 3, and there's a little 3 on top of it. And that's what we call artificial notation. And what that means is those notes are 3 notes per quarter note. Like that. But it's got 1 beam across. And to your average person, after learning what 8th notes look like, that looks like there's 9 8th notes. But it's not. The little 3 makes it a triplet. So the way they write it kind of means it's faster than 8th notes, but slower than 16th notes. It's kind of in the middle. So putting that little 3 there tells the player that it's an even 3 notes between each quarter note. Like that. These are 8th notes, which I'm sure you know. These are 16th notes. Makes sense. So 16th notes have 2 lines going across the beam, where 8th notes have 1. That's how you know they're 8th notes. 16th notes, but the triplet, it's in between the 2. So in Western society, anyway, that's how they write it. In other cultures, they just put 3 notes there, and they don't put they just put dots. They don't put the beams across. So there's different ways to write this stuff. The way we do it looks like that. So once you understand that, all this stuff becomes a lot easier. It just looks weird now because it doesn't really make math sense. What do you want with drummers, man? We're not scientist here. It's art. But anyway, I'm going to assume you understand what quarter notes are. So since they're not written here, it's just the dot and one beam, or one stem going up, excuse me, with no beams across. And that means one stroke on beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, and beat 4. Now literally, a quarter note makes sound for that whole beat. So later when you're doing rolls, you can play a quarter note of roll, right, of sound. And that's how you'd phrase that. But for right now, we're just going to play when it's time for quarter notes. The reason they call them quarter notes is because there's 4 of them. That's just arbitrary. In this piece, the Aaron Copland piece, there's a whole section of 5/4 time, 5 quarter notes, which again doesn't make math sense. How could you have 5 quarter notes if a quarter note is one of 4 of them, right? It's just because we say it does, that's all. You just treat it like a normal quarter note. Notes in between are subdivided the same way as they are here. It's just there's 1 extra per bar. You can have 7 quarter notes, you can have 9 quarter notes. I've seen 13 quarter notes, but beyond that it gets a little silly. But you can have 1 through 9 really, but we still treat them as a normal quarter note. So if you subdivide a bar of 5/4, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would still call those 8th notes, even though there's 10 of them. So don't get thrown off by that when it pops up.